Hey everybody, my voice just cracked. Welcome back to Live. I'm your host, Nick Taylor, and today I'm hanging out with Andy Bell, who's the founder at Piccalilli and and Sets Studio. Andy, how are you doing today?
Yo, yeah, good. Thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I've been looking forward to this conversation. Reached out to you a little while back, and yeah, so glad it actually worked out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So for folks, I always it always sounds funny when I say this, but like I've been following you for a while on socials, but you've done a lot of stuff, especially in the web and design communities. For folks who might not know who you are and what you're up to these days, would you mind just kind of giving a bit of a rundown?
Yeah, I expect a lot of people don't know who I am, and that's the correct thing. So I guess I'm a designer that fell into writing code accidentally. Well, that's
Okay.
spite. Yeah, people didn't used to build my PSDs properly, so I just decided to learn CSS and be like, right, well, I'll just do it myself then. But now I'm very much more into writing CSS and do front end stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, I just founded an agency called Set Studio and run a little publication called Piccadilly, and that's the sort of speed run. It's quite a bit in between
Okay.
all that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I've been well, there's a lot of your work that I've either read or I've actually bought. So it's kind of funny. Even though I used to work with Zach Leatherman, who created 11D, I actually
Yeah.
bought your 11D course during the pandemic.
Oh,
Because
appreciate that.
this is when I first started. I think it was like first few months at Netlify, and so, yeah, I knew Zach to some degree, but
Mm.
at the time I was like, oh, 11D seems pretty solid and it's fast. So I ended up getting your course. I also, my website still, I've altered it quite a bit now, but I started it off with is it the Helia template? Is that what?
Hylia,
Uh,
yeah, it's
Hylia. Yeah.
Zelda themed website. Yeah.
Yeah. So
No,
I started
that's
off with
cool.
that, and I can give some context to that. So, like, I've been doing I'm not doing front end like in my day to day at the moment, like as my official
Mhm.
job now, but like I've done a lot of front end, and I'm good at taking designs and making them look good on the web,
Mm.
but I feel like I'm not really that good a designer. Like there's stuff I'm familiar with, like I understand spacing and like, but I'm the kind of person that takes 2 weeks to figure out which fonts to use. Uh, you know, and it's like I know people always say like, oh yeah, you can learn these things, and you definitely can, but I do think there is still like some inherent abilities in people,
Mm.
like for example, like I might be like, yeah, this looks okay, and then like it's not in the current incarnation of Piccalilli, I think, but you had one of them where you had just like some kind of texture in the background, and it just kind of almost looked like a stamp, and I was like, man, that looks cool, and like that's the kind of thing like I
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
do,
Yeah.
and it's not because I can't learn things, but I feel, maybe people think, I don't think this is a spicy take, but like some people are just good at certain things, and obviously, working on those things make you even better at them, and you can get
Mm.
good to a certain degree. But I feel like people like yourself or like my friend Jay Tompkins, or
Mhm.
there's or like Adam Argyle. I got to hang out with him on Jason Lengstorf's web dev challenge. Like there's there's definitely skills that all of you have learned, but there's still like this aspect of it, like I would have never thought that, or I wouldn't have thought to mash these things together. And so I don't know. I don't know what my point was there exactly.
It's definitely a different type of skill, and it's something that for me is like eroded over time as well. I think that thing you referenced was my old personal site where a few years ago, and
Okay, yeah.
I got a flyer through the letterbox. I was thinking about redesigning my personal site. I got a flyer through the letterbox, and it's for like a '90s themed event. And like the
Okay.
flyer that came through was like super '90s, and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I need to make my website look like this, you know. So I just sat there with this flyer on my desk, and I just
Okay.
like it just got stuck in. But I don't do any creative these days. Like we've got designers internally in the studio, and he's
Okay.
like leagues ahead of where I could even dream of being. And so
Okay.
I don't ever flex any level of creative. I think the most design I do now is wireframing and like scamps
Okay.
and yeah, the odd bit of here. But you can definitely learn it. But I think developers find it hard because a lot of the stuff in design, like there's hard rules, there's spacing, typography, and
Yeah.
color theory and stuff. But like a lot of it's vibes, man. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of vibes and like taste as well. Like having sort of like a certain level of taste, and it's hard to learn that. It's something you can only do with time and like learning to identify like what makes a design good and
Yeah.
what works and yeah, rhythm and stuff. But so I think like a lot of developers get frustrated trying to do it, but there's so many like fundamental rules that you can follow that will make even if you think you've got quite poor design skills, will just make things better.
Yeah.
In general, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It's like, and to your point about vibes, it makes me think of Rick Rubin, like, because
yeah,
he has a great podcast, and just anytime I hear him speak, it's just funny because, like, he's like, I just feel it, or it just sounded good, and like
yeah,
that doesn't sound that tangible to somebody more like from a business or dev acumen, probably.
yeah,
But he
100%.
he is
Yeah,
spot on though. He is,
he
you
is,
know.
and like I think a lot what people don't realize about Rick Rubin is he's got like no like real skill in like music production at all.
Yeah,
He's just got really good taste. I think that's what makes Rick Rubin good, and he just knows what sounds good. And he's like I've seen videos of him in the studio before, and the way he talks, like I used to do a lot in the music industry, and the way he talks versus like
okay,
a normal sound engineer or producer is just completely different. Like he just talks at such a like human level, and he like makes the sounds with his mouth or whatever. And he's just like, look, I need it just to sound like this, and then
yeah.
yeah, he always have like a studious sound engineer with him who just understands the gibberish that comes out of his mouth and is like, oh yeah, yeah, let's tweak this, that, and that. And yeah, it's just crazy. Like there's people like that all over the industry that like I wouldn't if you put them in like in front of Figma and said design something, they probably wouldn't be able to design very well. But
Yeah,
if you pair them with a good designer, they'd be able to like really help that designer make something look really stunning as well. So
yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah. No, I remember what my point was before. Is because like I ended up using your template because I was like, I just want to start blogging, and I didn't want to waste like 3 weeks on building it. And I was like, this
yeah,
template looks really nice, and like I said, I've altered it since, but that, yeah, that was the motivation for there. But yeah, there definitely is a creative aspect. You know what I mean? It's like I
mm,
I love I love basketball. I played basketball when I was younger, but there's a certain point where like I can be good at it, but I know I'm never gonna be a Michael Jordan good.
yeah.
I'm assuming even if you don't play basketball, you know who that is. But
Of course, I
yeah,
had
yeah.
NBA Jam on the SNES when I was a kid. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So it's like, I think there's and I don't mean this to put down people. I think there's a limit of your abilities at some point, but there's
mm,
obviously the creative aspect that comes in too. So, anyways, all
yeah.
that to say, I like your work.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, like, so you're running an agency now. You're also running Piccalilli. So, uh, Piccalilli, correct me if I'm wrong. That's mainly like the newsletter and the educational part, or is Set Studio the newsletter now? I can't remember because I get it in my inbox every week, but I always
Yeah,
forget which is.
so it's mainly that confusion mainly comes from me. Um, so
Okay.
Piccalilli started its life as a newsletter
Okay.
back in the day, and then I stopped doing that newsletter, and I basically put Piccalilli into hibernation mode because I founded the agency and I had literally no time to do anything other
Yeah.
than that. Because like when I first founded the agency, it was just me and
Mhm.
freelancers to start with. So, and I used to get really heavily involved in the production work as well. So I just
Okay.
didn't have time to do anything. And then last year, so we had a newsletter on Set Studio, and that's where the index started. And then last year we brought Piccadilly back to life, and the newsletter was becoming increasingly like more technical stuff that we're sharing rather than like high level design stuff and all that. And I was like, this
Okay.
this just feels like it fits better on Piccadilly than
Ah,
Set
okay, okay.
Studio. So I moved all over. So you're probably getting the OG RSS feed or the subscription
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah, yeah. And so now it does live on Piccadilly. So I'd say like if you were to sort of rank where everything sits on that site now, it's like heavily on like articles, then the
Okay.
newsletter, and then like links and like the new project stuff we're doing. So the
Okay.
newsletter's not, but it's definitely growing quite fast as well. So yeah, it's a big part of what we
Yeah.
do. Newsletter now.
Yeah, I shared it in the chat. Yeah,
Yeah.
if folks aren't subscribed to it yet, I highly recommend it if you're interested in anything web dev. And it's I can't remember if you posted in the newsletter or if it was on Blue Sky, but uh, I- I've been doing TypeScript for quite a while, and I did a lot of .NET before, so it's very similar to C sharp
Yes.
syntax
Very
wise.
similar. C sharp. Yeah.
Um, but I saw you say somewhere that you're warming up to it, and
Yeah.
I was just curious on your thoughts there, because and I bring this up because there's a whole narrative in general. Like I'm a fan of frameworks. I worked on the Netlify team, but I do
Mhm.
understand that you still need to learn some fundamentals. Like I do use Tailwind a lot, but I
Mhm.
also understand CSS as
Yeah.
well, and like HTML and I guess this kind of falls into the TypeScript camp because it's like a compilation step. So I I guess yeah. I guess what are your thoughts on TypeScript now that you've been working with it a bit? And I guess like that it's kind of an open-ended question, but the ecosystem in general, like
Yeah, I think so. TypeScript. So I used to like fun fact. I used to do C sharp development as well once upon a
oh,
time.
okay, cool.
I used to work in an agency and like they had like well you know what you've done .NET so you know what .NET developers are like the .NET
Yeah.
developer archetype is and they had like no not even like an ounce of respect for like the front end at all. So I I was I was working as a designer in this agency, and like everything we were doing was looking good, and then until it got to an integration stage, and then it started looking like absolute horse because they were just tearing it apart and not integrating things properly. So I was like, right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do in the next project is I'm gonna learn some C sharp and I'm going to come in and do some integration
Okay.
work and actually do it. So I think that's the root of my frustration with TypeScript is like C sharp is solid, like unbelievably solid, and works really well. It's actually really quite simple to understand is C sharp as well. I found it really logical.
Yeah.
So then I picked up TypeScript and I was like, so Liana, like development lead at Set, introduced TypeScript, and I was like, and ahhing. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can bother with this. And then,
Yeah.
but she integrated something in a prototype, and the IntelliSense was absolutely amazing. And I was like, right, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
This is cool. Like there was a component, like a button component or something, and you'd start doing an icon prop, and it just like immediately IntelliSense it to the right sort of icon set and stuff. And I'll be like, okay, right, I can see
Yeah.
this being really useful. And then I tried to build something with TypeScript, and it all went wrong, and the errors were so bad, and I was just like, and it just sort of chipped away at me over time. It was like you do a lot of work, and then it was like the builds would just like build errors would show up, and the error messages were really useless, and googling around trying to find it was even more useless. And so like I was just getting increasingly frustrated with it and how sort of finicky it was.
Okay.
But we published a few articles on Piccalilli. So like Samraz did one, and we did another one on like more advanced stuff. And obviously, like, I edit all the articles. So from reading those articles, I got like a much better understanding of like TypeScript and how it works, and like I actually like learned a lot more about it. And then the
Yeah.
more I've done a lot of the because Piccalilli is all TypeScript. So I did a lot of like new features on the site recently, so it sort of
Okay.
forced me to get into it. And I think just sort of getting into it and really trying to understand it actually has made me warm up to it a lot more and appreciate it a lot more. Um,
Okay.
I still dump TS expect error everywhere, but like it's I definitely get it a lot more now. I still find it really annoying. I find some of the stuff it picks up. It's just like, yeah, like if you pass a string into something and it's like it's expecting a certain string and it throws
Yeah.
it. It says, "Oh, it's not an instance of whatever." And I'm like, you know it is, and you know this is a string, and you know this is right. Why are you doing this to me? Like, what are you doing? TS expect error. Right, I'll
Yeah.
shut that up. But I'm definitely sort of getting more patient with it now and appreciating what it
Yeah.
does. I think it was when so I did the release course last year and hired in Rob Owen to
Okay.
do that. Like, and he's a really good developer. He's more well known in the industry actually. He's like a creative developer, but he's like
Okay.
truly full stack. Like, not just a self-described full stack. Like, he understands the back end as well as he understands the front end. Like, really,
Okay.
really talented. And he developed an API for us, and it was all in TypeScript. And I was like, okay, I get it now. Like, I get why this is
Yeah.
like it is for this exact context. Like, it makes a lot of sense. And so I've just sort of been sort of chipping away at my own negative feelings about it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand the frustration when people start using it. It's like
Yeah.
I think I think for me, the transition wasn't bad because I came from C sharp and I started actually doing TypeScript in 2015
Yeah.
because I was working at a Microsoft shop. Also, small history lesson for people in the chat. TypeScript's been around since 2012, believe it or not.
Wow.
So it's and it also the reason why it's similar to C sharp is it's the same language creator. But like when I first started, like I think the primitive stuff people understand pretty easily, like a string and
Mhm.
number and stuff. If you've never seen generics, that kind of throws people for a loop. But since you've done C sharp, you're aware of generics. I think that was one big thing that probably throws people up. And
Mhm.
but I found since I was using it in the early days, a lot of like all the stuff they added over time, it's like it wasn't as abrasive's not the word, but it's like ramping up on it wasn't really that I mean, sure there's challenges, but I didn't find it too bad. But
Mhm.
I think the thing nowadays, because like in the early days, you had to actually type almost everything like explicitly, and now there's really good inference in it. So like
Yeah.
it's a generalization, but I typically if you're like a library author, there'll be a lot of complex types in there. But if you're like writing an app and you're the consumer of one of those packages, typically you won't have I say typically because there could be instances that you might have to, but generally you won't have to deal with very complex types typically. And it's gotten better over time too, and the integrations in the editors and IDEs too. So
Mhm.
and it's kind of become a de facto at this point, I think. Um
It's
that
more and more common, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. And it's like I know, like even people who are fans of it, like say like Rich Harris or like Jason Miller, who works, he's at Shopify now, I think, but the Preact project, like
Mhm.
he's a big fan of it, but they use the JS doc annotation instead.
Yeah.
Which still works well. It's like I guess pick your poison, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah,
the JS doc one doesn't whinge at you at build time, at least, but it gives you that sort of type assertion stuff, doesn't it? Yeah, but
yeah,
we went full bodied TypeScript instead,
okay.
and yeah, we're getting there. I mean, Leanne loves it, and she's really good at it. It's a skill issue on my part,
Yeah,
big time.
it's honestly I mean, kudos to you for like embracing it though. It's like
Mm.
and honestly, I think you're just gonna get more and more comfortable with it and it's,
Hmm.
just another tool. But I, I guess this kind of ties into what I was asking before, but like in terms of the ecosystem and stuff,
Mm.
like like there's a lot of projects you've done that I'm aware of. Like every layout where it's
Mhm.
like accessible components or like cube CSS. And these are typically, I would categorize them as, I guess, vanilla like in that sense. I'm curious in your day to day work because you're at an agency, so like maybe people are asking for specific projects, like maybe they want an Next.js or an Astro, or like I guess two two questions, I guess. Like what would you prefer to work in if you were doing something new? And I guess what have you been kind of seeing in the agency life?
So we're quite unique. If a client comes to us and with a sort of shopping list of technologies that they want to use, that tends to get thrown in the bin pretty quick,
Okay.
because the like we do this a really thorough discovery process with clients, and what often happens is like they'll do some, and it's them trying to be useful as well a lot of the time, but they'll do like some like surface level research. Okay, everyone's writing
Okay.
React, so we want to use React, we want to use Next.js, and we want to use X, Y, and Z. And so like the first thing we do in the discovery sort of phase is, well, aside from all the like user experience stuff and all that, and understanding the business, we try and understand like why is it that you've come to us with a shopping list of technology.
Yeah.
Sometimes like, and this was more when I was doing like CSS consultancy or like freelance, like they'd have like a whole team for doing that. But a lot of clients that come to the agency don't have a whole team to do that, and they're
Yeah.
like sometimes they'll be like, we just want to make hiring easier in the long term. And I sort of get that logic as well. Like, it makes sense, but we'll often talk them down from using stuff that's heavy. Um,
Okay.
so a lot of the time, we'll actually, so say they came in with Next.js on the shopping list, we'd say, how about Astro instead?
Yeah.
Because Astro, you can still write React components. It's very similar to Next.js, but the output is really light. And like the island
Mhm.
architecture allows us to only hydrate parts of the front end that need hydrating. And
Yeah.
it's just generally more solid. So I'd say that's at the moment, like if we were to say like what's my ideal architecture for a project, I'd pick Astro immediately. Um,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. Like obviously I did a lot of 11T stuff and I really do like 11T.
Yeah.
But the way that Astro's set up and the fact that you can do the majority of it with like SSG, but then you'd be like, "Do you know what? I need the server to render
Mhm.
this part of the site." It just makes it really easy to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, big fans of Astro. But generally, we just try and be pragmatic as possible, like
Yeah.
and forward thinking as possible as well. It's like, okay, well, if you want to use this like the hottest thing that's out at the moment, like what's the support going to look like in 3 years? Like, is there any? I always like ask questions like, is there any big players using this at the moment? Because
Yeah.
that's usually an indication of how good it is in terms of like if they're willing to take a gamble using it, then there's generally like a good omen there. But yeah, if someone came to me with like a framework I've never heard of before, it'd be like, well, we need to battle test this thing to within an inch of
Yeah.
its life before you invest all this money into using it because you're going to regret it otherwise, big time. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Astro too. I mean,
yeah, it's
having been
great.
on the frameworks team, I've just had just because of the nature of that work at Netlify, I had to be involved with all the frameworks pretty much.
Mm,
But I do like it. I mean, I found for me, like I do love React. I love JSX. It just it clicks with me very easily. But
mm,
I found like my current site, NikkiT.live, which shows like the guests for this show. I did that in Astro, and the content collections are great.
yeah,
But also I found like most of my site is static. The only real interactive thing I have on there is like a calendar component to just add it to your calendar, and it's like a bit of JavaScript. But for the most part, like I wrote all that in Astro components, and it didn't hurt my brain, if that makes
yeah,
sense. Like,
yeah.
obviously it looks very similar to HTML. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't think you could say it's officially HTML, but
It's very
it's almost
close.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We've just done that actually. So we're just wrapping up a client project at the moment, and it's very rare that a client came forward and they were like, our like top priority. It's an e-commerce client, and they're like, our top priority is that we use the
Yeah.
platform as much as possible, because we need this thing to be fast, like really fast, really light.
Yeah.
And so obviously I was like, yeah, man, let's go. So it's Astra components. Normally we
Okay.
use React components in Astra, so we'll have like a storybook. Um,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and but we were like, yeah, man, let's go all in on Astra. So we did that, and then it's web components for interactivity,
Okay.
which is cool. Astra, like doing that with Astra is really nice developer experience. And yeah, the thing is fast, super fast, and it's all SSR as well. You
Yeah.
wouldn't know it's SSR unless someone told you it's SSR because it's just like instant page loads, and that's the reason why I'm so into that. Leaning as heavily into the platform as possible is because you get so much speed out of it and so much resilience as well,
Yeah.
and you can't beat that resilience. I think it's reasonably recent in like Next.js sites where they'll just suddenly like just fail out and put that little 12 pixel error message saying, something's gone wrong or whatever. And it's like, I can't imagine shipping a client website that it would had even a half a risk of that happening at any given moment. Like it's wild. And I think from the being on the frameworks team at Netlify, deploying Next.js is not one to be taken lightly. Um,
You brought out the spicy topic.
yeah, unless you want to use Vercel, it is holy moly. I don't know if you were there at the time. Like, so Piccadilly used to be on Next.js, and it's when Cassidy
Okay.
Williams worked at Netlify as
Okay,
well.
that was
So
in the early days. She was I think a year before me.
yeah, so she basically kept Piccadilly alive for me,
Okay.
because like I think it was helping the framework team that you ended up working on that
Yeah.
it was on there, and it was hanging on for dear life on Netlify's infrastructure, like it really was. And like she left, and I just basically like I'd already sort of like moved the 11 course away, and I was like, I'm going to rebuild Piccadilly in 11 because
Okay.
I can't be dealing. I can't maintain this on my own anymore. Like it's so
Yeah, totally.
stressful having it on there. But yeah, Astra like it's unbelievable. It's so solid, and yeah, it works really well.
Yeah.
And I can't see us changing from that for quite a long time.
Yeah. That
Mm.
said, wait, like I'd be lying if I said it was easy to support Next.js when I was working on the frameworks team. But uh, that said, we still supported it pretty well. And I know since I've been gone, I started having talks with some of the people about this, but it happened after I left. But there's a project called Open Next now, and so
Mm.
Netlify, Cloudflare, and I think SST are part of it. So like all the framework stuff we did to support uh, Next.js on Netlify, it's moved into that project now, and
Yeah,
it's the support's really good. And I have to give a hat tip to the team and everybody that made that happen. And believe it or not, the Next.js team has been pretty responsive to help with that now. I I'm kind of out of that world kind of now, but
yeah, yeah,
I think the current manager there, Jimmy Lai, I believe that's their name, just been kind of being a good steward to just make it work well everywhere. So
yeah.
so, but there was a question in the chat for you, which I think you kind of answered it. But Charles says, "Have you seen Astro battle tested anywhere? I'm jonesing for the scalable example from basically anyone. I've seen it listed in job ads, but never seen it as a replacement for something like Next.js."
Well, we've got a client like from last year that do like event stuff, and
Okay.
we built them a system. So it's Astro at the core, and it's like really highly themable system. So they've got like all these different events, but they all run off the same code base as each other. They
Okay.
get hundreds of thousands, if not millions, on certain days of traffic, and Astro doesn't even blink.
Okay.
Um, it's a very it's a SSG, so it's like Netlify's infrastructure just eats it up, as you well
Okay.
know. But there are elements of it that are SSR, and yeah, and Piccadilly is an incredibly high traffic site also, and
Yeah.
it runs like smooth as butter, and it's why I'm so into Astro because it causes me no worries in terms of like I don't
Yeah.
like Next.js used to have me in cold sweats a lot of the time because it's like, is it going to work today or is it not going to work today? Like if you were launching something and you had Next.js infrastructure, you'd be panicking. Whereas with Astro, it's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. This gets lots of traffic. Who cares? It's going to work. It's going to work
Yeah,
really
yeah.
well. So yeah, it's been thoroughly battle tested by us. Like I don't like enthusiastically recommend frameworks unless I've really sort of tested it to within an inch of its life. So, and
Yeah.
it's done well. It's done really well for us, and it keeps doing really well for us too.
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely appreciate the simplicity and
Hmm.
like I said, I don't know, like when I started using it, I didn't really have to think too much about like, how sometimes you get into some kind of new technology,
Hmm.
it's like your brain kind of hurts for a while. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously I've done web dev, so but like I just went into Azure and I was like, oh, this makes sense. Like the only slightly foreign thing was the markdown code fences at the top, but
Mm.
that's like they have a extension for that. I'm assuming you use something like VS Code, so that's all supported. But that was
Yeah,
like
that's weird.
the very
Yeah.
minor thing.
Mm.
But
You
yeah.
get used
But
to it really
aside from
quick
that,
though. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Because that to
And
me, like that code fence is for front matter. It's not for writing JavaScript. So it feels really weird writing JavaScript in that. But
yeah,
yeah, but you get used. I think like what I like about Astro is if you come in from Next.js, you'll find a lot of familiarity with it. Like the way
yeah,
that like the pages directory works in a very similar way. The static paths works very similar. But
yeah,
and then if you're coming from 11T, it works very similarly as well. Like the collections stuff is very similar to how 11T's collections are. So
yeah,
like if you can come in from like either end of the sort of scale, and Astro sort of sits there in the middle of it, and it seems to have picked like the best parts of the best bits, and it's
yeah.
just created
No,
this
for
really
sure.
good thing. And you can just you want to add a meta tag into your header. It's not like a 3 hours of googling. It's oh yeah, I'll just dump it in the header. Jobs are good, and
Yeah,
that's what I like about it. It feels like it still wants to be part of the web platform, whereas like Next.js
yeah,
feels like several abstraction layers above it, um, which is a
yeah.
bit of a black box, and that always makes me feel slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, there's trade-offs, obviously. Like,
Hmm.
I think for people, like, I kind of equate it to kind of similar to like ASP.NET, which I'm assuming
Yeah.
you did as well. You
Hmm.
know, people they basically built it for people that did desktop
That's
applications.
it. Yeah, to
bec-
try and bring them over
You
to the
know,
web, didn't they? Yeah.
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 So like, if you didn't know anything about web dev, you would assume that it's a stateful thing. Like they
Yeah.
used to have the view state and all that stuff, and
Yes.
so like it basically abstracts all those things that you potentially don't have to worry about, but it kind of gives a false sense of how the web actually works, and it, but that said, like again, trade-offs, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're just trying to build stuff and you maybe don't care or don't need to go that deep,
Mm.
then maybe it's not a big deal, but you know,
But
because
bringing back some trauma there, though, Nick, with the web forms. I remember the first time I worked on a web forms project, and I looked at the output, and I was like, "Why is everything inside of a form element?" And they're
yeah,
like, "What?
why is
It
there
has
this
to
big
be."
hidden input?
Yeah, it's just full of garbage. It's like, "Oh, you can't
Yeah,
change any of that. If you change any of that, the server will reject the next thing." And it's like, "What do you mean?" And yeah,
yeah,
when the what was it called? Blade, was it? When they brought out that better C sharp thing that where you could write more. It was quite similar to
oh,
what we wrote.
razor,
Razor,
yeah,
that's it. Blade's the
yeah, yeah,
router
yeah,
mail thing in it. Yeah,
yeah.
Razor. That was so much better. Yeah, but that
Oh yeah,
was
I
just as I was
lessons
leaving
learned,
that
I
world.
guess.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Web forms existed purely to bring software engineers over to the web at the time, didn't it? It was like a
Yes.
little
So not a bad thing, but it
yeah.
necessarily, but it's
Mm,
again, it's like depends what you're looking for. Cause like I know, you know, this isn't a Next.js bashing stream, but like there's certain things like you can't access the full request of
yeah.
like a Next.js, at that point it's just not available or it's just abstracted away and you can't access it. So, again, maybe not a big deal depending on what you're doing, but
Mm,
like I know like on my Astro site, Like I read the headers. I use like edge functions to, like, for example, you're in the UK, I'm in
Yeah,
Canada, so like the stream dates that appear on my website, they're actually cached per like where you're coming from. So
that's cool.
you'll see the UK time, I'll see the Eastern Coast time. Well, you can probably do that in Next.js with a middleware, I guess, or something. But anyways, uh, I digress. But
Yeah.
but you're talking about web components again, another platform
Mm,
primitive, and I'm curious of your take on this. I think I haven't used them a ton. I have used some. I I think the adoption, at least the first 10 years, wasn't great from,
mm,
because like I remember saying like, oh, okay, like they made it sound like this is the next thing, and then it wasn't fully supported. There was like Polymer, the Google project to, it's like, I think it just shimmed stuff or basically tried to make it work properly. And I definitely feel like the frameworks coming out didn't help with adoption either.
mm.
But that said, like, even though I don't use them that much, they're a lot more powerful these days, and I definitely think they make sense in certain contexts.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious about your thoughts. Like I know uh, David Darns, he always said David
Yeah.
Darns.
David
Like
Dance.
I forget the place he was working at,
Or Nod Health. Yeah.
Nord Health, yeah,
Yeah.
and like their whole design system was web components. And I actually
Yeah.
talked to a friend who works at Red Hat at IBM, and they're all in on web components
Mm.
too. And I'm just curious, well, one, your thoughts on it, and like, you know, I think even React now has the support for it. I'm not sure if it's been merged yet. I know there's been a long-standing pull request for that, but
Yep.
um, anyways, yeah, just curious about your thoughts about all of that.
Yeah, like I think so. Web components are. I've been reasonably into web components for quite a long time. Probably like last sort of 7 or 8 years now. And I think the way you approach what a web component is in your brain really helps with understanding like what it's useful for. And a web
Yeah.
component is like really low level primitive in the browser, right? It's a super low level. It's not going to do anything that a React component does. It's not going to do anything that a Vue
Yeah.
component does. It's the idea of a web component is like if you want that stuff, you build a
Mhm.
layer above it and then provide that stuff. So stencil JS or whatever, like those like
Okay, yeah, yeah.
layers above that'll give you like, oh, I want to use like um state driven stuff, right? But like
Yeah.
the way I see web component is it's a means to an end. So like it is what the user interacts with, whether that is reading content or seeing content or interacting with that content, so like a form or whatever. And then
Okay.
the best way to sort of architect with web components is to have like a middle layer that's doing all of the hard work for you, and then the web components are sort of communicating with that, a bit like
Okay.
MobX or I can't remember what the other state libraries are called off the top of my head, but like that's
There's
sort
so many of them.
yeah, yeah, or even React, right? Even having
Yeah.
like a sort of React-like middle layer that sort of delivers the web components, interacts with web components, and does all the logic for you. I think where people fall short with web components is when they try and make them do what they want to do with a React component, and they're like, "Oh, this sucks," and it does suck if you
Okay.
try and do that. Like, but if you think of a web component instead of this is a progressive enhancement a lot of the time, and that tends to be
Yeah.
how we use them. Like we'll wrap existing markup in a web component and be like, your job is to make this content in here interactive.
Yeah.
Like that's all you do. You don't do anything else. You don't know anything else. You just know about what we give you and then what's inside of you, and that's it.
Okay.
And if you approach it like that, they're really useful and they're really really quick and like unbelievably quick. And because they're
Mm.
built into the browsers, of course they are.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're really good for that, but there's a big learning curve for them. But if you embrace it, like go in there, like I really want to learn this, then
Mhm.
you won't regret it. Like they're really good for like portability, especially. So I do a lot of design system work, and
Yeah.
there's no surprise to me that Nord Health, IBM, and all these big design systems are using web components because I think what a lot of people don't understand about like big design systems is there'll be all these different outputs for a design system. Like imagine a company like IBM, there'll be like a crusty old infrastructure that's probably on ASP.NET
Yeah.
still. That has to use a design system. The Next.js that's more new has to use a design system along with like a WordPress site that's hanging around somewhere. And like, so
Yeah.
web components make sense because they're so portable and you can use them anywhere. Whereas if you like try and enforce a framework in your design system, you're causing yourselves like integration and governance problems like in the long term. So it's like how can
Yeah,
you
that makes
simplify
sense.
the output as much as possible? Yeah, and web components are great for that. So yeah, I'll keep championing them, but I do understand people's frustrations about them as well. Like
Yeah.
they're a pain in the ass a
I
lot of the time.
I I really appreciate that take
Mm,
because it's I think it's pretty pragmatic. Like it's been a lot of, at least, because like anything in web dev, there's always some kind of drama, or definitely in JavaScript land. But like
always,
it's
yeah,
it's always been like us versus them in terms of
yeah,
web components from what I've seen.
yeah,
So it's no, it's I think that's a level take on it. It's really just enhance things, but also make it portable across,
yeah,
because that is a true issue where it's like, oh yeah, we're the new team. We decided to go with like Next.js, and then there's, like you said, the old ASP.NET or a PHP
yeah.
site, and for whatever reason, they're not going to upgrade because there's no business value to. So like, it makes sense in that regard. I guess one one thing I'm curious about web components is, because I've read about this, and I have used them to some degree, but I'm curious about like CSS when it comes to web components, because there's the shadow root, and there's, I think,
Mm.
shadow. I don't think it's called
Shadow
shadow
DOM, yeah,
CSS, shadow DOM. Um,
yeah.
so like, and I can't remember if it was David Rupert from Shop Talk saying that you can still have CSS leak out, or I'm not sure exactly
Custom
what the
properties
case
can
was there.
get in. Yeah, so
Okay.
custom properties can get in, but nothing else. So nothing will be inherited inside of the. So like big part of CSS is inheritance, right? So like you've got a paragraph element and
Yeah.
it's the right color, it's the right font because everything is inheriting everything from the body, but your shadow root won't do that. And it's why I just don't bother with the shadow root because it's antithetical to the way I write CSS and like the way we do it. And it's
Okay.
all about like stacking the globals as high as possible and then letting everything cascade. And you can't really do that with the shadow root. You have to be very specific. And but the shadow root is really useful if, let's say, for example, like your IBM and you've got like a
Hmm.
global header that's used on every single site, and that global header has to look exactly the same and it has to
Yeah.
work exactly the same. Like the shadow root makes a lot of sense there because nothing's going to interfere with it really
Okay.
from
Yeah.
the outside, and you're going to be able to maintain that consistency. But like I always sort of recommend people, if you're just using web components on a website, like just don't use it if you can help it, because you're going to cause yourself a lot of problems unless, like, I think it's actually a good use case of Tailwind actually,
Okay.
is doing that sort of thing, is like bringing it in and generating this, because Tailwind does the just in time stuff, doesn't it? So it only generates the
Yeah.
CSS that's required out of that component.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a fan. I think it's a bit of an oversight, but I also understand like why it has to be like it is for that context. And I think that's sort
Yeah.
of what a lot of pragmatism comes from me, is like you don't want to see what I've seen over the years,
Yeah.
the consultancy stuff, especially. Like I've seen some horrors, but I've also seen like not horrors in just in terms of code, but horrors in terms of like businesses and org structures and decision making. Like people are fighting for their lives a lot of
Hmm.
the time. So you've got to use tools that are going to help those people rather than hinder them. Like it's just, and that's where like Cube CSS came from, because it's like this approach seems to work for everyone, regardless of whether it's a greenfield project, which is almost certainly never you're never going to experience as a consultant,
Yeah.
or like a really old system that needs refactoring. Like it's just seemed to work across the board, and it's all about like just letting the browser do work for you, and then yeah, everything gets easier when you do that. When you rescind a bit
Yeah.
of perceived control, everything just gets easier all of a sudden.
Yeah. So in terms of if you're styling web components, are you just are you just using custom properties then, or are you letting it just it's just inherit? Because like will if there's a paragraph in the component, it will it
Yeah.
inherit from the global CSS?
Yeah, if you don't have a closed, if you don't use the shadow DOM, yeah. If you so you
Okay, you have
can,
to
yeah,
explicitly turn it off. Okay.
yeah. So you have to like explicitly say, "I like, I want to use the shadow DOM."
Okay.
But yeah, if you just like render a normal web component, it'll inherit the CSS just like any other element on the page will. So like, I
Okay.
definitely recommend people do that. Like, our use for web components tends to be like, here's some existing markup. This is your minimum viable experience, and then the web
Mhm.
component's job is to enhance that with interactivity. Because if the web component loads and renders correctly, then JavaScript's available, and then you'll be able to do what you need to do with it. But so yeah, all of that markup, that like light DOM as they call it, that's inheriting everything. So yeah, it's
Okay.
good
Yeah.
to work with them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Treat them
And
as seasoning rather than the main course, Nick. That's a yeah. Tends to be a sort of analogy I use a lot. Is like you
yeah.
wouldn't just eat salt on its own, would you? But yeah,
Yeah.
salt's really great if you use it right in cooking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. No shame if anybody owns a salt lick at home. That's okay. We're not judging.
Yeah, if you do what you want to do, you know.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Cool. So yeah, no, that's awesome. I kind of wanted to touch on. So you got Set Studio. No, we kind of talked about that. Um, there's the educational aspect of stuff you
Mhm,
do as well. I mentioned this. Can't remember if I mentioned at the beginning or when we were up before the stream, but like uh, you've put out a lot of great content, not just a newsletter, but like projects like I said, the 11D course, which I purchased back during the pandemic
mhm.
to pass the time, and I've purchased like the every layout dot
I
dev
appreciate it. Thank
the
you.
book and stuff, and I think there's I don't know Hayden, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but Hayden Pickering.
Yeah, that's right.
uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think you write a book as well together, or every layout dev was with
That's between the two
Hayden?
of us. Yeah, yeah. We did that
Okay, yeah,
together.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
So like so you've done all that kind of stuff, and you're looking to obviously still produce educational content, but like, there's only so many hours in the day and
hmm
resources. And so I don't know if you wanted to talk a bit about like kind of this new initiative you've done to
yeah,
hopefully make it sustainable for you and still be able to actually provide value to people. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. I'll talk about this all day. So like obviously like I run an agency, um, and we tend to do work for commercial clients. Of course, is what pays the bills. But like so between the team, there's four of us. We've got like over 50 years of experience combined, like between us all, and with that we get tired of doing certain things. So like when you run an agency, you tend to have to chase KPIs, for example, because like people want to return on stuff, and
Yeah.
you end up doing work you don't really want to do to meet those KPIs. And so we've all like independently had a bit of a bit of a wobble this year at points. Like we don't feel like we're doing stuff creative enough anymore. We don't feel like we're doing X, Y, and Z. And we all like all independently had these thoughts, and we do a sort of monthly. Like I get together with each person,
Okay.
like a one-on-one every month, and it's not like a formal thing. It's just like how you doing? What can I do to help? You know, like
Yeah.
how. And we all had these conversations, and did a batch of those, and I was like, we're all actually suffering the same problem at the moment. We're all unsatisfied, so that just got my brain going. And like fundamentally, I think we all, if you were to sort of distill everything down, we were sick of making the rich richer. Like that was what we were
Okay.
fundamentally fed up with. And so I thought, I really want to do stuff. Like obviously, the world is in a state that it's in at the moment. It's not great.
Yeah.
People are suffering. And I've always wanted the studio to give back like as much, if not more, than it takes. And I was like, well, what about if we try and switch it up and we open an open collective and we say, look,
Hmm.
whatever you can afford to sort of like contribute, if it gets to a certain level, we'll be able to not do commercial client work and we'll go out instead and look for like food banks or things that tangibly help each other, like progressive causes, and say, look, we'll do the work for free for you
Okay.
because we're funded. In return, though, you need to accept that we're going to do this project in the open completely, and then
Okay.
we can
That's the
see.
catch. Not that's not a bad
Yeah,
catch, but
no, it's not.
okay.
It's like we want to return something back to the people that are backing this. So we'll do these
Okay.
open projects where we actually like open the door to the studio, and it's like, look, this is how an agency works under the hood. Like this, often you'll only see the output of an agency. You'll see like the site, but you don't see all the work that goes into that output. And like a lot of that work isn't sitting writing code or drawing rectangles in Figma. It's like communication and
Yeah.
strategy and all that stuff that goes with it. So we really want to open the door on that, and then everyone wins. Like our community gets like really unique education that we've probably never had before, and then the causes that are doing good things for people get like the level of work that a commercial client will get. So like the work that they couldn't even dream of being able to do, on
Hmm.
the web. So it feels like a win-win. There's a lot of work to do to get to there. Like we got a lot to do
Yeah.
in terms of like open collective and stuff, but we're gonna get there, and I think it's gonna work out really good. Like I'm already talking to like our local member of parliament, try to work
Oh,
out like
nice.
projects we can do stuff from there. Yeah, so like I'm turning the gears on that front, but the wheels of government turn slowly, Nick, and so it's not like landing a commercial project. I tell you, it's really
Yeah. Yeah.
difficult. So yeah, that's primarily what I'm doing at the moment. Is I'm just like, I mean, I live my
Okay.
life in my inbox anyway, but my inbox is full of activity at the moment. So what we're trying to do at the moment is like we'll find this one starting project, and I think that's what's going to kickstart this thing like really well
Okay.
for everyone. I think everyone will really see what we're about. We're sort of doing a project at the moment in the open,
Oh, okay.
mainly to find our feet with it because it's hard. Like it's like agencies are like notoriously secretive, and then suddenly it's like, oh, by the way, we're just gonna do all this in the open now. So like, it's a big culture
Oh,
shift for
yeah.
all of us internally. So we're doing like a because we're launching a couple of courses on Piccadilly this year. We're doing like a brand for each of them. So it's like, okay, we'll do that in the open so people can see roughly what we're doing. But when we do a full project from scratch, I think people will like be quite surprised at like how these things actually go internally because we're going to publish everything, what goes right and also what goes wrong in the project because a lot of things go wrong in client services work that other people even realize. And it's like we want to teach you how to navigate those problems because they
Okay.
arise a lot, and it's like helping people to sort of deal with that better in their actual day job too, based on like what we're teaching. So yeah, I'm quite excited about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, long way to go yet.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I don't know if you have a link to share to the Open Collective. I know you
Yeah.
posted it on Blue Sky a while ago, but I can't find it at the moment. But I'll definitely
Um,
share that.
have we got a chat? Oh yeah, we have. Yeah, I'll
Oh
drop
yeah,
you a
yeah.
link.
There's
So yeah, yeah.
cool.
So what I'll do
Yeah.
is I'll drop a link to um oh, the article that explains like what we're actually doing
Okay.
in there, and then that's got a link to the Open Collective in it as well.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah,
Cool. Let me
we're
just.
working on like a pretty fancy landing page for it at the moment, which I hope will kickstart things as well. But the problem with everything being so fragmented now, it's really hard to sort of get the message out to people what we're trying to
Yeah.
do. I remember the good old days when everyone was on Twitter and you just tweet it and that'll be it. We don't have to worry about it
Yeah.
anymore. But yeah, not everyone's there anymore. So
Yeah. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, the
yeah,
social media is fragmented. Like
yeah,
I mean, I know you left Twitter. I'm still on Twitter. As I mean, I'm generally more on Blue Sky, but I'm on
Mhm.
Twitter still, or I should call it X, I guess. But
It's always gonna be
because there
Twitter.
are,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. But there's still like people like that's the only place they contact me, and like
Yeah, yeah.
from a work standpoint, I also need to be visible there, and so. But yeah, it's a bit of a dumpster fire too at the same time, and
Yeah, I can never browse it. I have to log in every now and then. Elon forced a blue check on me, so I have to go in and
oh,
change my
okay,
username every sort of now and then to sort of prevent that. And the obviously my DMs still active in there as well. Like people still, like you said, people still contact me in Twitter, so
yeah,
I still have to go and check. I mean, it's not as much now because like most people have sort of shepherded them along and been like, look, here's my signal or here's my email
yeah,
or whatever, like whatever you want to do, like this is the better way to get in touch with me. Like I understand that a lot of people don't want to use Blue Sky, and that's fine. Like whatever, like use whatever
yeah,
makes you happy. But I just can't deal with the timeline on Twitter. It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
it's a lot. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
there's definitely a lot. I definitely do enjoy Blue Sky quite a bit.
mm,
I was on Mastodon initially,
yeah,
and Twitter still, but and I don't think there's anything wrong with Mastodon. It's just I just gravitated towards Blue Sky, and I just,
mm.
because it's also draining to one. I feel it seems kind of disingenuous when you post the same thing. Like it's like,
Oh yeah,
hey,
cross
this was a
posting.
great day, something something, and then you post it again elsewhere. I do that occasionally, but it's like it's and I do it mainly because like people I know are only over there, but it still feels weird, like I don't know. It's, capturing the moment. Oh, wait, copy paste, capturing the moment.
Yeah, I did that a little bit. So I did like the old buffer thing, and cross
Oh
post it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
before. And it's like I just remember thinking one day, like, what if someone follows me on Twitter, Mastodon, and Blue Sky? Like they're just gonna see the same post like 3 times. I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
totally.
just gonna tune them all. So like when I was still on Twitter, it was like, okay, Twitter's like work shit. Mastodon is just work plus plus. Like it's really good
Yeah,
for like super technical stuff. And then Blue Sky was for me just mucking around and having fun on there. And then like Blue Sky is now. I mean, I don't know how many followers I have on Twitter, but I think I'm slowly sort of overtaking it in Blue Sky
yeah,
now, and it's like so that's becoming my primary driver. But really, what
yeah,
matters is publish stuff that is available to everyone. So like publish on your blog and stuff because you'd be
yeah.
surprised at how many people subscribe to your RSS feed. Let me tell you, yeah,
Y- Yeah, and it's
surprising. Mm,
we're going on a tangent here again too, but
mm.
having a blog, like some people say, is blogging dead and stuff? Maybe,
Nope.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But like, uh, I post stuff too, and like I wouldn't call myself a prolific blogger. I mean, I think you're definitely way more consistent, but I I tend to blog when I learn something, or like I ran into an
Mm,
issue. Like that's how I've been best able to blog, at least from a technical standpoint. I don't really blog about personal stuff. I tried
mm.
that as a kid, a diary too, and it was like, if they ever made a movie about me, to be like, man, this guy had the most boring diary ever. Like I remember my mom bought me one, and it's like, I remember for a week it was like, yeah, today we ate steak. Yesterday, like it was like
Yeah.
nothing of value. So,
Yeah, yeah, just straight up kid stuff, innit? Like that's just how their brains work, innit? Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah. I know you got a hard stop in about 10, 12 minutes.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to touch also on like you're talking about, leverage the platform as much as possible, and I definitely agree with that. And like even though I'm a big fan of React, like there's things you don't have to do in React. You can just get it for free with just regular web, and
Yeah.
like CSS is like so amazing these days. Like I don't even know what version, or if they version it anymore. I remember like
No.
CSS 3 was like with the logo, that was like the de facto for I don't know how many years, but like now I feel it's like almost every couple months something new is coming
Yeah.
out, and it's just really great. Like so many nice things that probably came out of user land or like just people doing these things in JavaScript over and over. So it's,
Mm.
I guess, yeah, it's kind of open ended. But I'm curious, like, I'm sure you're excited about it as well. But is there like some more recent things that you're excited about? Like, this one's been around for a while, but I saw your post. You had a short video about just the sticky footer.
Oh yeah.
It's just a beautiful little thing, and you had to do. I don't even know if people did sticky footers with JavaScript. I can't remember honestly, but
It was fixed because like if you wanted to achieve that um, before sticky came around, like you'd have to calculate the height of the footer and then add that much
oh yeah,
padding
yeah,
to the
okay,
bottom of your page and stuff. And yeah, with sticky, you just literally do it and
yeah,
get a Z index and you're off to the races. And I think I should do more stuff like that. I didn't realize how little people knew like what these like really simple things can enable. But
yeah,
I think a lot of that comes from like if you go on MDM for example, like the demos are always pretty underwhelming out there. And
yeah. The
what
colored
yeah
boring boxes.
yeah like what we're desperate for in this industry is like really good demos like that are real, like real life stuff, like real world stuff, because I think people could understand like CSS has got so much going for it now, and there's so much coming out
Oh
and
yeah,
moving. People can't visualize like how to use a lot of this stuff, like the gap decoration stuff. It's literally just been talked about
oh
this
yeah.
week
That
by the
that's
Scrum
new.
team. Yeah, like the use cases they got on there, like they're pretty cool. But like one of them was like it's like a notepad. It's like well, who's building a notepad in their day to day job? Like what are they doing? So
Yeah.
what I might do for that one is fire up Canary, and we did a project for a font designer last year, and
Okay.
we had to hack away at like like a grid of like characters. We had to hack away at it because you can't decorate the gap. So we
Okay.
defined
Yeah.
like a 1 pixel gap with background behind it, and then putting a background on all the cells. But I'm gonna probably like refactor that component with the new gap decoration stuff, because like
Yeah.
show people like how easy these new CSS features make things, like what felt like complex things once upon a time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that sort of stuff. It's like typography is what I'm most excited about because obviously I'm a designer, so all of the new like text wrapping capabilities that we have
Yeah.
now, like you can really do a good job of setting type now in the browser, probably better than you can in Figma. In my
Yeah.
opinion, like you can really, really go to town on it now, and like text box trim and all that sort of thing. Like, there's
Yeah.
not much you can't do in the browser with typography now. So that's the stuff I get really excited about. There's a lot of new stuff in CSS that I haven't even bothered looking at yet, um, because I don't really need it. But yeah, there's. I think if you were looking at CSS and thinking it's underbaked, you're not looking hard
Yeah.
enough. It's like it's really baked at this point. Like there's a yeah, it's been in
Yeah.
the oven for
Totally.
a long time. Yeah, it's good. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think what I'd quite like to see is browsers working at a similar pace to each other again, like they did with CSS Grid, like where CSS
Yeah.
Grid just suddenly appeared and it was like, oh, by the way, like it's available in every browser, and it's like it'd be nice to see features work like that more.
Hmm.
Because
It's definitely tough. Like I think I read or I think Adam Argyle was telling me it's like, you know, typically Chrome is, I would say in general it's Chrome that has this first.
yeah,
Sometimes Safari maybe, but they actually have engineers from the other browsers help other
yeah,
browsers a lot of times, which I didn't realize. Which
that's
which I
good.
thought was pretty
That's how
cool.
it should
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Firefox have been first for one thing recently. The new date stuff in JavaScript that's coming out, like Firefox
Okay, yeah.
shipped it, yeah, and it's like I can't remember the last time I saw Firefox shipped a feature first.
Yeah, no,
So
totally,
yeah,
totally.
good on them. But yeah, a bit more parity would be because I don't really care about this stuff. So a lot of CSS, like a lot of new CSS stuff, like you could say progressive enhancement. But I know
Yeah.
people can't work like that in their companies a lot of the time. Like
Yeah.
they have to follow certain governance and stuff. So mainly I say that to help those sorts of people in their jobs, rather than help me in my job. Like,
Yeah.
like consider like this really cool new feature, Safari, that you've just suddenly came out of nowhere with. Like, maybe hold back on it a bit and say like, okay, we're working on this and
Yeah.
we're going to work with the Chrome team to make sure that they're at a good level with it, and we're going to work with the Firefox team, like you said, like sharing resources and bringing in teams like Agalia and stuff, and saying, okay, like, let's all aim to
Yeah.
hit this. And I know Interop sort of does that, but it's like before Interop, like
Yeah.
big bang feature, let's all release it at the same time as each other, and then people can
Yeah.
use it and they don't have to ask the question, they can just use it. And yeah, I'd like to see more of that, definitely.
Yeah. Less at supports.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because that stuff never gets deleted out of your code base either. Like, if people are like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, to do when this is supported across all browsers," and then 5 years later, you'll see that same code sitting there in your code base, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
just tech debt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, totally, totally. Um, yeah, no, we're almost at time. I want to be respectful of your hard stuff because I know your kids are about to attack you. Um,
yes,
my kids are a little older, so if they attack me, it's probably for different reasons. Um, yeah, I dropped links where people can give you a follow again, including Set Studio and Piccadilly.
awesome. Thank
I
you.
strongly encourage people to subscribe to the newsletters. Always great tips. Like Andy was talking about how he's a big fan of uh, not topography. What did I, what why can't I think now? In terms of fonts, why am I saying
Yeah,
topography? Anyways,
typography. Yeah,
typography. Thank you. Sorry,
yeah,
I need another coffee. But like I remember, I think it was one of your blog posts, and I put this into my blog immediately in terms of text. Was I went with the text wrap style balance, and all of a
yeah.
sudden my headings just look so much
Beautiful.
nicer,
Mm.
and it just little things like that. And so
Oh,
definitely,
let me give
definitely
you an
encourage you to give it a
article.
go.
Yeah, I wrote an article a while ago. That like any developer can pick this up, and it gives you like really sort of foundational design stuff to implement on your website that will make everything look good, and like text wrappings in there, and setting line lengths, and like just like fundamental typography skills. And like
Yeah.
a lot of tech blogs that I read, like I read a lot of blogs. Like, you wouldn't believe how many articles I read on a week, because obviously I curate newsletters, so I've got to read a lot of blogs. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
fundamentally the worst, the thing that crops up the most, and the thing that I could see developers improving the blog immediately, is setting a max width on the content, and wrapping
Oh
using
yeah.
text wrap, and it will make everything so much easier for people to read. Like, I've got a studio display, and I'd like a lot of the time I'll have my browser like
Oh yeah.
fully full width, and I'm like, Jesus, there's like 100 words in this one line, and it's really hard to read. So yeah, like that. If you wanted
Yeah.
one tip to walk away with, it's like set your line lengths and use text
Yeah.
wrapping, and your blog will look amazing all of a sudden. Yeah, and it's like 2 lines of
Yeah.
CSS. Yeah.
Yeah. Is width 65 ch still what you'd recommend, or
Depends on the size of your font. So like
okay.
it's between 65 and 75. So like if you've got quite a small
Okay.
font, you want to go, you know, towards 75, and then if you've got a larger font, you want to wrap that a little bit harder. But it's again back to what we were saying at the start of the stream. Like, you just learn to
Yeah.
see these things the more you do them. You get a vibe
Yeah.
from it. Like, there's the rag end, which is like the right, like a lot of us are left to right readers. The rag
Okay.
end
Yeah.
is the right hand side, and you want it to be less like that and just more smooth. And then that's how you know you've got the right line lengths, by that
Okay.
smooth rag. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Well, listen, Andy, thanks so much for taking the time to
Yeah,
hang
thanks
out
for having me.
today. I know it's a little later in the day for you, so definitely appreciate it. And just check out all the links I dropped there. I'll
Awesome.
I'll be posting all those links in the recording that'll live on YouTube. Definitely give a follow to Andy on Blue Sky if you aren't already, and definitely check out Set Studio if you're looking for any kind of agency work, and also Piccalilli, just and the newsletter. Lots of great stuff there.
Yeah,
Everybody
thanks.
else, we will see you next week. I don't think I have a guest next week, but I'll be hanging with my old coworker Sean Roberts from Netlify, but on my work live stream. We're going to be talking about uh, things going on in uh, I can't speak today, AI land with MCPs and stuff. So excited to talk about that. And everybody else, yeah, we'll see you in the next one. And Andy, if you don't mind just staying on for 1 second, and
Yeah, yeah.
everybody else, take care.
See you, everyone. Thank you.